Well, hello everybody and welcome to Chef's Baking Blog. Today I'm going to be making some walnut tarts or walnut baskets. So these are little pastry cases which are going to be filled with a little bit of apricot jam in the base, and then some ground walnuts mixed with mixed with sugar and egg whites as the filling, and then they're going to be baked. And they can be done in these little fluted tart tins like this if you have them, or if you don't have them, they can be done in a bun tin like this. They'll just be a different shape and a slightly different size, or they can be done in a muffin tin, but just with the pastry going halfway up the side of the muffin tin, so that that just creates the shape for baking basically. So I'll go on to the ingredients. So for the ingredients I have 150 grams, which is 1 cup based on scooping packed flour into a 250 milliliter cup of plain flour. I have 80 grams, 5 tablespoons plus 2 teaspoons of unsalted butter, which is cold, and I've chopped that into pieces. I have 1 medium egg yolk, which would be large in the USA, and I have 6 grams, which is a scant teaspoon of icing sugar, just for a bit of sweetness in the pastry. Then for the filling, I have my apricot jam, and I'm going to use about a teaspoon of that in the bottom of each of the pastry cases. And then I have 60 grams of sugar, which is about 5 tablespoons of caster sugar, and I have 75 grams, about 3/4 of a cup of walnuts, and I have 1 egg white, a medium egg white, which would be large in the USA. And I'm going to need these walnuts ground, and so I'm going to do that with the caster sugar and grind them to quite a fine texture basically. But I'll start off with the pastry. And for the pastry, I'm going to put the flour and the sugar and the butter into the bowl of my immersion blender processor. You could do this by hand, rubbing the butter into the dry ingredients until it has a coarse texture, but I'll do it in the processor just because it's quicker. So I'm just going to mix that until it forms a sort of a coarse breadcrumb-like texture. And that's good enough like that. And so into that I'm going to put my egg yolk, and I'm going to mix it again until it begins to clump together. And that's it beginning to clump together. So I'm going to take that out and squeeze it into a dough. So if I squeeze that, as you can see, that easily becomes a dough, and I'm just going to squeeze it around just a little bit to make it malleable. and that's actually good enough like that. So then I need to roll that out. So I've just floured the dough a little bit, and I put it onto a floured surface, and I'm going to roll it out to between 1/8 and 1/4 of an inch in thickness, and it doesn't matter if it cracks, because this is the sort of dough that you can easily patch. And with the dough rolled out fairly thinly, I'm going to take a cutter, which is about 8 centimetres, just over 3 inches, and I'm going to cut out some rounds, and then I'm going to take each round and I'm going to pick it up and put it into one of my tart tins, and I'm going to press it down just to fill the tin. Just like that basically, and then I'm going to set that to one side. I'm going to put that in the fridge to chill it with the others, but I'll roll the rest out and then chill them in the fridge. So I have filled 6 of my little tart tins and 5 of my bun tin holes. I could have probably squeezed a 6th out, but I didn't want to push it, so I'm going to put those into the fridge to chill while I preheat my oven. And I'm going to preheat the oven to 180 Celsius, that's 160 Celsius with a fan, 350 Fahrenheit, and as it's heating I'll go on and we'll make the filling. So to make the filling, I'm going to put my sugar and my walnuts into my little immersion blender bowl, and I'm going to blitz them until they're quite finely ground. Now if you have ground almonds, if you can buy ground almonds, use ground almonds and just add the sugar in and stir it around, but I can't get ground almonds, so I'm going to grind it, and grinding it with the sugar prevents the almonds from forming into a paste basically. So that's good enough. I can show you. That's quite finely ground now. So I set that to one side, and what I need to do now is in another bowl I need to whisk my egg white until it's quite stiff. And you can do this by hand as well, of course, but I'm going to use my hand mixer again just because it makes it easier. So that's good enough like that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to tip my almonds and sugar mixture into the egg mixture. and I'm going to mix those around until they form a paste basically. And I'll actually start off with the one of the whisks from my hand mixer just for ease. And then with that mixed together like that, it's actually ready to be put into the pastry cases. So with my oven preheated, I'm going to take some jam, apricot jam, between a teaspoon and maybe half a teaspoon and a teaspoon, and just put it into the bottom. It doesn't need to be too much. And then I'm going to take my filling, the walnut filling, and I'm going to spoon that into the cases as well. Like that. And then with those filled, I'm going to put them into the oven, and I'm going to bake them for 20 to 25 minutes. So the filling should rise up and bake through, and the pastry should turn a nice gold colour as well. Then I'll take them out of the oven and I'll allow them to cool down. Then I'll come back and show you the results. So I baked my walnut tarts or walnut baskets for 25 minutes. The filling rose and formed a sort of meringue-like top because of the egg whites. So it was quite firm on the top. The pastry cooked through as well. So I took them out of the oven and I left them in the tin for 10 minutes. Then I took them out of the tin and put them onto a wire rack to cool completely. And this is what they look like. So as I say, they baked up quite nicely and the top is crispy like a meringue. So I'll have a taste of one. The pastry is lovely and short and crumbles and melts in the mouth. The filling is really very, very good. So you have the crispy meringue topping and slightly chewy on the inside, and then the sweetness of the apricot jam as well. So these are very, very good indeed. And I got the idea actually from my sister, who had been looking at some Hungarian websites and looking at Pinterest. And they work very, very well, I think. Very good for a snack and afternoon tea. So that's going to be it for this recipe. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have, please give me a thumbs up below and click to subscribe to my YouTube channel. In the top right hand corner of the screen there will be an eye which will take you to my blog if you click on it, and below the video I'll put a link to the recipe and to my blog and all the recipes on the blog. And I'll be back with another recipe in the very near future. So until then, happy baking.